Now that the absolute masterpiece that is Andor has concluded, we can take a step back and assess the character losses of the story arc as a whole. So, which main characters from Andor actually survived, including through Rogue One? Let's take a look. Now obviously this video is going to have heavy spoilers for Andor, so consider this your final spoiler warning. We'll be covering everyone I consider a big time character, but forgive me if I miss any. Cassian Andor, our titular hero who survives the full run of Andor, but meets his fate on Scarif in Rogue One. Mon Mothma, everyone's favorite senator turned rebel, Mon Mothma survives Andor, survives Rogue One, and even survived the original trilogy with no confirmed death. Marva Andor, the one who raised Cassian to be the man he is today, Marva passed away on Ferrix in Season 1 of Andor. Cyril Karn, a fan-favorite villain who dedicated his life fighting against someone who didn't even know his name. Cyril ultimately fell at the hands of Carol Rylance during the Gorman massacre on Gorman in Season 2. Luthen Rael, the rebel mastermind who knew all along he would give his life for a sunrise he'd never see. He made this sacrifice at his own hands, with the eventual help from Kleya on Coruscant in Season 2. Bix Caleen. Bix went through an absolute roller coaster throughout this story, but ultimately thankfully survived all of Andor, ending the series living peacefully on Mina Rao, with no confirmed death. Dedra Meero, our star villain of the story, Dedra actually survives all of Andor with no confirmed death, but she does end up imprisoned on the infamous Narina. Leo Partagaz, a constant force from the highest ranks of the ISB, Partagaz ultimately took his own life in the ISB headquarters on Coruscant in Season 2. Vel Sartha, a consistent and effective weapon for the rebellion, Vel managed to survive the full show with no confirmed death, ending up in the rebel base on Yavin. Cinta Kaz, one of the most dangerous weapons in Luthen's arsenal, Cinta was ultimately and tragically lost due to friendly fire from Sam of the Gorman Front in Season 2 on Gorman. Kleya Marki, one of the great unsung heroes of the rebellion, Kleya was prepared to give absolutely everything, and she did, except for her life itself, as she survived the full show with no confirmed death, last seen recovering at the rebel base on Yavin. Lonnie Young, another of the most important rebels who many in the galaxy will never know, with a real argument for being the most important of them all, tragically eliminated by Luthen to tie up loose ends on Coruscant in Season 2. Orson Krennic, the leader of the Death Star project, fell at the hands of his own creation after failing to stop Andor and Jyn Erso from stealing the Death Star plans at Citadel Tower on Scarif in Rogue One. Karis Nemik, the voice of the rebellion, whose manifesto was the first domino that just might have saved the galaxy, as it was partly responsible for Cassian joining the cause. Nemik tragically died on the doctor's table on Fresno after being injured in the skies above Aldani during the heist in Season 1. Arvel Skeen, a wild card of Luthen's rebellion, cut down by Andor after floating the idea of stealing the rebellion's Aldani spoils while on Fresno in Season 1. Bail Organa, a strong pillar of the rebellion, Organa survived all the way through Andor and Rogue One, but died when the Death Star wiped out all of Alderaan in the original trilogy. Brasso, Cassian's longtime friend, fought well, but was ultimately lost on Mina Rao in Season 2. Tim, the idiot that saved the galaxy, as I've previously discussed, Tim paid the price and died on Ferrix in Season 1. Wilman Pack, a character we watched grow from a boy helping his father to one of the rebellion's most useful weapons, Wilman survived the whole show and was last seen on Yavin. Salman Pack, Wilman's father unfortunately did not share his fate, as he was one of the first rebels to be killed on Ferrix in Season 1. Saw Gerrera, the rebel extremist from Onderon who was often as feared by his allies as he was by his enemies. His fight ended on Jedha when it was struck by the Death Star in Rogue One. Tay Kolma, an early rebel ally that proved less trustworthy than Mon Mothma thought. Tay was eliminated by Cinta under the orders of Luthen in Season 2. Ruskat Melshi. Melshi met Andor in prison on Narkina 5 and was instrumental in the prison breakout. They reunited multiple times throughout the years as their roles evolved in the rebellion. Melshi stuck by Andor's side through many missions and fell during the most important mission of all on Scarif in Rogue One. Kino Loy. A leader of the Narina 5 prison breakout, Kino's fate is actually somewhat unknown. We just know that he didn't jump into the water because he couldn't swim, but we can't confirm anything that happens to him after, so he really is unknown, but technically that puts him in our survivor category with no confirmed death. Davo Skulden. As scummy as Davo was, he did technically help the rebellion survive. He also survived himself with no confirmed death through the whole show. Edie Karn, one of the most terrifying monsters in all of Star Wars. Edie managed to survive the full show with no confirmed death. Taramyn, another core member of the Aldani rebels. Taramyn fell during the heist in Season 1. Perrin Firtha, a terrible husband to Mon Mothma, but a survivor. No confirmed death, last seen drinking his life away. Linus Mosk, Cyril's pre-Mor buddy who was his right-hand man during the riot on Ferrix. Linus actually survived the whole story as far as we know, with no confirmed death, last seen on Ferrix drowning his sorrows in his flask. Blevin, an ISB lieutenant who regularly butted heads with Dedra Meero. He was eventually replaced in his duty in the ISB by Hirt, but survived the show with no confirmed death. Hirt, Dedra Meero's assistant turned colleague turned rival. Hirt rose through the ranks of the ISB quickly, only to find himself rising through the air and being disposed of by K2SO in Season 2. Gorn, yet another key Aldani rebel who fell during the heist in Season 1. K2SO, my personal favorite droid, a true rebel hero. K2 tragically fell during the Citadel Tower heist on Scarif in Rogue One. Caro Rylance, a respected member of Gorman society and the leader of the Gorman Front, Caro survived the show after saving Cassian during the Gorman massacre with no confirmed death. Enza Rylance, Caro's daughter, was also a prominent figure of the Gorman Front, but was tragically shot down during the Gorman massacre by a KX series droid. Cloris, an Imperial plant who was immediately obvious to Mon Mothma, Cloris paid for his blatant betrayal when he was killed by Cassian on Coruscant in Season 2. Davitz Draven, a general of the Rebel Alliance put under near constant stress by Cassian, but still pulls through when you need him. He survived the show with no confirmed death, but still doesn't get to our top tier since he did die in a 2015 comic book that's considered canon, dying aboard the Executor shortly after the events of Andor. Dr. Gorst, the literal bringer of nightmares. His preferred method of treatment was straight up actual torture. He met his fitting end at the hands of one of his victims, Bix, on Coruscant in Season 2. And finally, B2, the lovable, anxiety-ridden droid, survives the show to live out his days with his buddies on Mina Rao. So that's everyone from Andor that I could think to include on this list. If I missed anyone major, feel free to let me know, and make sure to tell me whose ending you think is the most fitting in the comments. Thanks for watching.